Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Can everyone hear me okay? Can you please put plus in the chat if you can hear me well? Dear all, I'd like to welcome you to our second webinar where we will learn how to start a business in transport telematics. And the goal of this webinar is to give you the full overview on how to become a specialist in GPS monitoring regardless of your current expertise. We have a mixed crowd here today with us. Some of you are just considering the idea of becoming an integrator, and some of you have already dabbed in installing and using telematics solutions for fleet management. After this webinar, the newcomers are going to get a pretty good idea of satellite monitoring business, and the integrators will get an opportunity to diversify their portfolio by implementing fuel monitoring. And the last but not least, at the end of this webinar, we will surprise you with a very special offer, and you'll be able to ask your questions during Q&A session. Now, who are we? We are a manufacturing plant located in Kazan, Russia. The name of our company is Escort Monitoring Systems. We run a full-scale production line of IoT and complex telematics equipment from idea to concept to research and development and mass production. We handle it all since 2004. I see we have a lot of people joining us today. And before we continue, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. In front of you, there is a poll with 3 questions. I ask you to kindly answer these questions. Now, as you might know, this webinar is a logical continuation of the one we hosted last week together with Telematics Wire India, with the difference that today we will focus on the profit making as an integrator, whereas last week we tried to give an idea on fleet management from an end user point of view. Those of you who watched our webinar last week, please put plus in the chat session. Thank you. Those of you who didn't participate last week, don't worry. Here are the results from a quick survey we had. Now, as you can see, we asked 3 questions and we had 3 answers. We had the answers from the end users, freight forwarders, carriers, bus operators, logistic companies. Now, as you can see, the issue of a fuel theft for the end user is a hot topic, meaning it's a major issue. 72% answered yes, they have experienced fuel theft. 64% said yes, they track fuel by level sensors in their fleet. This is a good sign, as you don't have to convince a customer to use a fuel gauge. Also, 69% of respondents answered yes, their expenses exceed the annual budget. This in turn tells us that these companies do not track fuel costs at the proper level and there is room for improvement. As you can see, this answer shows how important fuel monitoring is for fleet management, and that's what we will talk about today. Now let me present our speakers. Our speakers today are the Business Development Manager for the APAC region, Tim Almayev from Escort Monitoring Systems. Mr. Sanjay Jain, CEO of Calcom from Hyderabad, a professional system integrator with a huge experience in telecom and GPS tracking. Mr. Arslan Rahmatullin, technical support engineer, the team leader in Escort Monitoring Systems, and me, Eleonora. I am a business development manager for EMEA region. Now, let's get started. Please, everyone, welcome Tim.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Escort Monitoring Systems, I am happy to welcome you here to this webinar. We will talk about fleet management integrators business and how to become a system integrator. Where is the profit in it and what are the perspectives? So why fleet management? Before I get into it, let me outline what the fleet management is. Fleet management is the process that allows the management of all fleet and asset information. This provides space for companies to reduce costs, improve efficiency, and ensure compliance across the entire fleet operation. Fleet management may include a variety of functions such as leasing and financing of vehicles, vehicle maintenance, licenses and compliance, supply chain management, accident management, and monitoring and diagnosis, driver management, speed management, fuel monitoring, health and safety compliance. I can go on. So technical realization of fleet management is done in 3 stages, basically. Sensors that are installed on the vehicle and collect data on fuel level, temperature, angle, motor hours, and so on. Second, GPS GLONASS tracker installed inside of the vehicle's cab. It collects data from sensors and broadcasts it via the GSM to the software monitoring platform. And the third, monitoring platform analyzes the data and creates readable reports for fleet owners to make strategic or tactical decisions. Fleet management is tightly connected with the 4th industrial revolution and represents a new stage in the organization and control of the industrial value chain. Cyberphysical systems form the basis of Industry 4.0, or so-called smart machines. They use modern control systems, have embedded software systems, and dispose of an internet address to connect and be addressed via IoT, aka Internet of Things. This way, products and means of production get networked and can communicate, enabling new ways of production, value creation, and real-time optimization. Cyber-physical systems create the capabilities needed for smart factories and for remote monitoring and management of fleets. The primary objective of every business is to reduce costs. How can you do that with a large fleet of vehicles? Maintaining a fleet can be expensive, both in fuel costs, paying drivers, and maintaining the vehicles. Many businesses are blindly investing in technology without really considering the benefits they get. Fleet management, satellite, and fuel monitoring shall be the answer. This graph, made by Inkwood Research, shows overall trends in APAC region. Indian telematics market to grow up to $4 billion by 2026. As you can see, the growth of telematics market is huge, and this is the market to look at. Another research made by 6W Research Group, India telematics market is projected to reach 300,000 million by 2021. Increasing road accidents, growth in organized cab services, fuel theft, need for fleet management is expected to fuel the adoption of telematics devices in the country. Frost & Sullivan has said the telematics market in India is expected to reach 1.3 million units by 2021. Telematics market will gain traction from India's planned infrastructure investment of nearly 59 trillion rupees and construction of 10,000 kilometers of national highway. Another graph by India Oil Corporation shows the soaring fuel prices in Delhi. With high prices for fuel, it becomes a commodity. You can trade it, you can sell it, and steal it. Fuel expenses can incorporate up to 30% of automotive fleet expenses, and that fact makes fuel monitoring business a very needed trade. As you can see, the need for fuel management is in rapidly growing telematics market is great. Fuel management is critical area for today's fleet operations. Fuel optimization reduces decision-making time to a fraction of a second. Even better, by integrating the fuel monitoring with mobile communications and dispatch systems, planning and executing optimized fuel purchases can become an automated process. Fuel optimization helps improve driver compliance with the fleet's fuel plan because every dispatch is accompanied by a route as well as the designated fuel stop and volume purchased information. How to fulfill this demand and who would be your customer in this case? Your customers would be, I'm sorry, I have to look at them here. That would be your transportation companies, construction and mining companies, public utility, diesel generators, taxi, basically any company with existing fleet with existing automotive fleet of vehicles would become your customer. And now let me introduce Mr. Sanjay Jain, CEO of Qualcomm. As we introduced him before, he has a huge experience in fuel monitoring and GPS tracking business. So let's ask him a few questions about how he get into this type of business, and how does he deal with the end users, and what kind of solutions he can provide to the end users. Mr. Sanjay.
Good morning, Tim. Good morning, all.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. Pleasure having you. Pleasure to have you here at this webinar.
Thanks a lot, Tim. Pleasure is mine.
Thank you, sir. I have a few questions for you. Can you please tell us how did you get into the GPS tracking business? Just a short story of what you did before that, and how did you become the type of the business you are right now?
Actually, I started my company in 2004, and it was basically a telecalling company for Vodafone and Airtel. Fortunately, at that particular time, one of my client was looking for 100 SIM cards for a GPS tracking system. That led me to introduction of GPS system to me. He introduced GPS system to me. Since childhood, I am very fascinated with the kind of technology is there, because I myself have a commerce background, but always technology I've always excited me, whether it is a introduction of computer in Indian market or any kind of technology. So that was the first time when I was very fascinated. I went into the thorough research of GPS system, and we shifted our business from basically a telecalling marketing to a GPS systems solution system. And first order which I did in 2004 was for 35 units, which I sold to a company in Dubai from India. So that was the first order, which never gave us a lot of boost. It never let us think twice before switching the business. That was the first single order that happened in 3 days. Telemarketing businesses was a boom. See, when we started telemarketing business, Hyderabad was growing, international airport was coming, radio taxi, call centers, BPO. Everybody wants the tracking. They want to track their employee vehicle, they want to track their radio taxi. A lot of stuff were going on. We started with door-to-door marketing. I myself went door-to-door to a company, and we started selling GPS tracking to the truck owners. Basically, the company who's having 1 or 2 trucks, and for distributing their products, and all those stuffs come into picture. Later on, when we tried to expand our business, we went to constructions company, we went to mining company, and there the question was not tracking, because their area of working is predefined. You cannot move your vehicle from predefined area. It's a boundary where the machinery will not go out beyond that particular point. So tracking was not important from them, but diesel consumption was. Average consumption was, that the use of machinery was, because 90% of the vehicles of machinery are on a they use it on a rental model basis. They don't have their own machineries. In India, it's a general practice, not even for construction company or mining, but the transport company, they never try to purchase a new vehicle. They just try to hire the vehicles, but in this scenario, they are paying for the diesel, not the rental company. They don't want to pay diesel from their pocket, so they don't want to monitor it, so that it's lie on the construction or the company who hired them, that they pay, they provide them the diesel, and that they pay them the rental on a monthly basis. There, the need of fuel management systems arises. It started with basically when we try to tap the analog wire of the fuel meter present in the vehicle. But as you know, in India, we have vehicles which are 20 years old, 25 years old, where actually these analog signals are not working, or the flows not working properly. And the kind of area they work, the mining, the areas are not flat. It's not a flat road. It's up and down. The vehicles are continuously moving up and down. Then there are machinery who are not moving at all, but still they are consuming the diesel, because like JCB, excavator, They have a dual role. They work while moving or they work while they are standing. All these scenarios lead us to think about fuel management system. Yes, it was tedious to convince a customer to find a sensor, to get a solution. But I was very particular about one thing, that if I have to present a solution, it should work. If it is not working, I very keen the solution. We tried many before we finalized companies which showed interest in our product. But initially, we prove our solution to them. Like when it is a way of doing a business. When I approach a customer, I do not disclose a price. Price, I know for a customer who is ready to use a fuel monitoring system is everything. If we provide on the benefit of the sensors or a fuel monitoring system, yes, he is ready to invest. So that's what I did. We installed 3 sensors in 3 different type of machinery at a construction sites, and we showed him the result in 15 days. There was a huge difference between the manual reading what they get from the site for the filling and what our system shows. And initially, the first order which I got from that construction company was for 55 units for that particular sites. That's how we started. Yes, there was some error initially when we started. There was some miscommunication with the customers. We are not able to do the thing properly, but we never went back. We admitted our fault. We recalibrate the sensor, we reinstalled the sensor, and we made them set, because that was a learning period for not only for the customer, for us also. So we went ahead, reinstalled the sensor, recalibrated, and now I can proudly say that yes, you give me any kind of machinery you have, and I can give you a full monitoring system solution right now.
It comes
So
from a very big experience. When was what year was that first order with this machineries?
For fuel monitoring system, it started in 2012.
2012. That was a long time ago. Nobody even knew about existing of such type of the system.
Look, it was there in India team, but it was very expensive. Actually, what is happening? Fuel monitoring system was there. There was a company was providing the solution, but they made it a luxury. We decided to make it affordable for everybody. See, that's the difference.
Yeah, the thing is, what they probably consider is that the end user saves tons of money. So if he does, the solution has to be expensive. We think it doesn't have to be expensive. It has to be reasonably priced. But let me ask you this question: from your experience, does someone who wants to get into that type of the business, fleet management business, does he have to have a related experience? Meaning, is it necessary for this person to be an automotive specialist, or he could be he could come from a background of the home security systems, perhaps even somebody who can repair cars, they can become they can learn and then become a fleet management business representative.
See, that can be an extra advantage, but it doesn't mean that anybody who's not a mechanic or who doesn't understand this can't do it. This is a very simple thing which we people think it's very complicated, but actually it's very, very simple. But it's less like that we have a tendency to plug and play. We just wanted to switch on the computer and everything should become on the screen like that. It's not like that, but it is not also complicated. It's a very simple thing if you understand how to use it or how to connect it. I have personally installed around 70 to 80 vehicles in all kind of machinery. So yes, I used to take help for drilling from some mechanic, but connecting it to a device, how to configure a device. See, it's an interest. How you want to look into the business. Today, I went to each and every machinery for the reason, like if somebody asks me some question about, if some data is coming wrong or if it's not happy, I should able to answer it. So if I know that machinery well, you can answer it. People don't want to go to the field. That's a bigger challenge in our industries. You have to enter the field, at least spend some time on the field with the vehicles. You need to understand the connections. Now I can say proudly, sitting here in my office, I can help any of my dealer to do the calibration over the phone, or I can tell them how to connect, where to connect, how to connect. And with BLE coming into the picture for the last 3-4 years, it had made my job very easier. You don't need to tell them the wire also right now.
Yes,
so they can do it.
Yes.
And
But
every telematic device is coming, you can configure it through SMS. So it's very easy. It's not so difficult as people think. Yes, drilling, some people think drilling is a tedious job. It's hard to do, but no, I can do drilling myself. It's
if you
not
have,
tedious.
if you have a proper tool, yeah,
It's a proper tool. If you do it one or two times, third time, you can definitely do it. It's a mindset which you go with no, the field or a customer. A lot of people, like I initially myself, if somebody asked me fuel before 2012, I would say no, because there were no proper sensor. I have lost a few orders, few money because there were no proper sensor. But if you have a right product, if you have a right attitude, definitely you can.
Yes, yes, thank you. It's so we have this technical part which has to be learned. Otherwise, as you said, you won't be able to answer or diagnose something, quick enough, to have an answer for your customer. But if you experience that firsthand, then you would know what to say, and that most likely is going to be what exactly that happened, even without you seeing the machinery. But there is also a second part to this business, which is a business communication. Yeah. So you come to the end user and you meet with some type of objections. What would be the typical objections you might hear from the end users? Just give us like one or two or three.
No, see, in India, see, I have visited many customers. Either they don't know about the fuel that this system exists, or if they know, they believe it is very expensive. So, which actually both are wrong. Like there are companies who have given them so higher prices that people are very afraid to use it. And because see, if I am having a one vehicle, I can spend money. I don't bother it. Okay, if I am getting a full monitoring system, I can spend 40,000, 50,000. It's okay. But when I am looking at 100 numbers or 200 numbers or 300 numbers as a management, it's very difficult for any company to give the approval for that kind of amount. So because we don't know whether it will work or not. So gradually my approach when I approach a customer is when he says he had 100 vehicles, he said 20 vehicles or 40 vehicles, I generally tell him, sir, you use it for 3 vehicles or 2 vehicles or 5 vehicles to start it, get used to the system, understand the system very well, see our performance, and then we can talk about the numbers. Because I'm sure if you use our sensors once, you will use it again. But that kind of, if you can, that kind of service, if you can provide, definitely will customers will come back to us again and again.
So you give them a trial period, like basically it's very common among software companies, and that comes to a trying of the hardware. That's it's a common concept in our type of business, in telematics business, and frankly, most likely because it's new, a concept for people, drilling a tank and installing something in it. So do some people say it might, is it dangerous? I mean, is it how will it work? I mean,
no, see, I tell one of my client, I remember they told me, sir, if you drill our tank and tomorrow your sensor doesn't work, if we didn't get the desired result, and if you want to remove the sensor, there is a hole in the tank. I told him, sir, I will leave the sensor to you. I will not remove it. Because see, that's a confidence when you're talking to a client. It's a confidence you should have on your product. If you have your confidence on your product, definitely customer will believe in you. If you are not talking confidently, or if you say, sir, no, it will work, and see, it doesn't matter. When the customer is spending so much of money, or if he's planning to spend so much of money, because he needs it. The problem here is that he is looking for somebody or some solution which can guarantee him at least not 90% of the result, if not 100%. I have a customer who has used different company sensors before, and they have come back to us after because there was a pricing issue. There was some the customer was giving a lower price or something. They have come back to us. And in one of my customers, I not I to name our competitor, but one of the customer, he told me like they have already installed a sensor with a different company which was very expensive. And when I approached them, they said, sir, your sensors are almost 40% cheaper than this, but we are not sure whether it will work. I told them, sir, you remove that company sensor and put my sensor in that place. We will calibrate it and you can see the difference. They're not even a 1% difference in the result. See,
yes.
So that's kind of confidence you have to build. The customer, see, if we are going to buy something like anything, You
Yes.
have to technically guide the customer, show him the result, show him the ROI. And you have to, first of all, I have seen a lot of people, a lot of dealers, when they approach a customer, they don't approach a customer. When customer asks them for full monitoring system, they said, yes, sir, we have it. 99% people, they don't approach a customer with full monitoring system. They just wait till the customer approaches them. It has to be other way around. You, because see, there are companies who don't might have 10 vehicles, 25 vehicles. Even a small factory, they might have a 5 or 6 vehicle for distribution. They need fuel management system. They can use fuel management system. They want to use it, but they don't know. They don't have anybody to guide. They don't know anybody to help. And like last year, after the lockdown, the COVID-19 happened.
Yes.
There was a huge demand for our sensors, basically, in a couple of months.
I remember.
The reason is, yeah, everybody was asking for the data, because see, sitting here in my office, I want the data in my hand. It should be on my laptop. I should know that if I'm sitting in Hyderabad, if my constructions are going on in Mumbai or somewhere remote area, at the end of the day, I wanted to know how much fuel we have consumed, what is the expenses, what is the profit. The scenario has totally changed. It's not like, no, we are relying on some trusting. It's not like we're not trusting drivers or not trusting the person in charge.
Yes,
but it is like we need a first-hand data every time, because we have to analyze each and every point. Otherwise, every company will go into losses.
And people do the demand for that type of monitoring is surging. Yes, but what can I say? It all comes from the experience. You know, you being able to speak about so freely, you being able to provide the solution to your customer. It comes from the experience, and experience comes from knowledge. So basically, yes, you have to be technically savvy. You don't have to come from any type of the background. Again, it will be an advantage, you know, if you know how to hold the electrical, drill or screwdriver in your hands. But then everything could be learned, and then after learning, you can get experience, and yes, you can become whatever you dream about. But Mr. Sanjay, thank you very much for your invaluable insights. It's always a pleasure to get first-hand experience, and first-hand words from you, because you were there in the field at first. Now you're organizing not a small business, not a small business, I can vouch. And then, with your dealers network, you can provide installation pan-India. This is great. This is great. We like it very much. So shall we continue further?
Sure.
Yeah, with let me continue sharing my screen again. Please, Mr. Sanjay, thank you very much. And
yes, thank you very much, team, and Mr. Sanjay. That's been a pleasure to watch, actually, and to listen to the real life experience firsthand. It's a very invaluable, really, information. Thank you very much, both of you. Now, I see that we have the results of the poll. Yeah, so we see. Do you already install telematics devices? Yes and no. Well, 50-50. Okay. There's a space for improvement. If not, would you like to be involved? Well, zero participants do not want to be involved. Yeah, so that's good. I like this kind of statistics. Would you like to learn and improve your skills? Yes, that's great. I see that this webinar is, we're doing it, for the good cause, and I do hope it will become handy, and we are not stopping, we're continuing with me. And I will tell you about a very important part of the business, such as salary, prices, and profits. Now, first, I'd like to bring your attention to the average salary in India. So as we can see, wages in India is expected to reach 372 rupees per day by the end of 2021, according to Trading Economics Global Macro Models and Analysts' expectations. In the long term, the India average daily wage rate is projected to trend around 397 rupees per day in next year and 420 in 2023, according to the econometric models. The trend itself is looking good, yeah? Well, that's what I think, at least, rising the salary, it's always good. So what about the trends in employment in technology fields? As we can see, depending on the role and the years of experience, a professional in the field of technical services can earn from minimum 600,000 of Indian rupees per year to more than 6,500,000 rupees the further they go with their qualification. Now, speaking of their qualification, how do you do it? Yeah, do you really need to improve your qualification, or you can just sit and wait for 15 years and at some magical point you will get a promotion? As our slide shows, the biggest considerations for the technology hiring managers when employing a new talent is your skill set and experience. And over the last 10 years, the pay for the top performers has been increasing by 86% more than the average performer, which clearly shows that it pays to perform in India with critical skills like digital, automation, and analytics in very high demand. New technologies, such as advanced telematics, the collection and long-distance transmission of operating data, and data analytics have the potential to transform fleet management. They enable real-time fault detection and, in many cases, a remote repair as well. Through predictive analysis, they also have the potential to reduce rates of failure and optimize fleet efficiency. And although keeping up with the trends and trainings might be a little bit scary and seem like a challenge, 58% of fleet managers are excited about new technologies. Now let's look at the gasoline prices. We see a 14% increase in their price. Well, obviously, mostly due to the COVID-19 hitting us very hard, hitting the economy and the traveling opportunities very hard last April. And please accept to everyone all my condolences for this tragedy that I hear is happening in India right now. And we pray for you and we hope it all gets better. Now, obviously, to prop up the oil prices, the OPEC cartel and its allies slashed oil production. But hopefully the situation is changing. We see that it's changing, and with the vaccination being introduced, the global oil demand will get higher, and the production is still lagging a little bit behind, so the prices will continue to rise. That's the prediction. Now, if we look at the use of GPS fleet tracking by the industry, it's not surprising, obviously, that the transportation continues to lead this way. But however, the services industries, followed by construction and government, are quickly catching on. Well, we believe that it's only a matter of time before more players get engaged and realize the true benefits of having an efficient technology toolbox. Now, faced with all these possibilities, it's both tempting to want to implement them all, but at the same time difficult to know when to start. In reality, unless you're faced with establishing a brand new fleet, it's not practical. And when we look at the cost breakdown, the main part of spend of the fleet manager is fuel. Organizations that begin preparing for this transition of the new technologies now can gain a complete and a detailed understanding of their needs, allowing them to integrate exactly the right mix of technologies and to maximize the benefit of those technologies bringing to their operations. And in the time of economic and regulatory uncertainty, keeping costs in check is vital for the fleets, for the business really, any business. In fact, 44% of fleets rated increasing cost as a top challenge for daily fleet operations. And the number of fleets using GPS fleet tracking technologies has increased from 64% to 72 in 2020, in just 1 year, by 8%. A majority of respondents across industries said that GPS fleet tracking has been very beneficial for their fleet operations, and they consider fleet tracking very or extremely beneficial. Exponential growth in the volume of data will ensure that fleet are as efficient as possible, leading to financial and environmental gains, as well as making planning and journeys easier for both managers and drivers. Now, the most important, obviously, where do you come in? Yeah, where do you as an integrator come in, and how much do you make? So let's have a situation. Say you have 3 clients and I don't know, logistic companies, right? Transportation company, construction company. And these companies, they came to you and they asked for a full fuel monitoring solution. Where's your gain in this kind of scenario? So these 3 clients, they will amount, according to our, internal stats, to about 100 clients. So first, what you have is you have an installation profit. Yeah. So how much you charge? $55, which you charge for your installation service per vehicle. Then you have an income on your hardware, GPS and fuel level sensor. Let's say you make around $50 per car. And the last, this is where your treasure is buried. For each unit that you will be tracking on your platform, you will charge a subscription fee, which in our experience is about minimum $5. So you multiply this $5 by 100, like in this example, yeah, and $500 per month is your passive income. You can obviously make it bigger, this subscription fee, because fuel monitoring is a service and it's a difficult service. And this service includes going on sites, dealing with the mishaps, dealing with the force majeures that might arise. So really, if you use a good fuel level sensor of a good quality, then you won't be spending time or money on fixing any issues. And therefore, this subscription fee becomes your clean income, $500 per month, doing nothing. Yeah, just watching on the platform. I think that's great. And now that you have an idea of how you can make a profit and how much you can make, and you know that it's possible, and you know that people are already doing it, how about, how do you persuade the transportation company, a construction company, any company really, that you will be better off with a precision monitoring system? Please, Tim, show us how it's done.
Me again. Basically, when you determine your customer, say you have a transportation company that have automotive fleet and uses fuel, yeah. So let's break down to the simple things. Basically, there are the first thing you have to know, you have to understand, what do they need? In certain cases, they have some type of a business or some type of machinery where they don't need the fuel monitoring as much as the tilting mechanism monitoring, for example. Or in certain cases, they don't need the fuel level sensor, but they have small type of machineries, like, for example, saloon cars, and they might need just some type of the CAN bus or OBD solution. So this is the first thing. You have to understand what does your customer need. The second thing, talking to the right person, obviously, because if we offer optimization of the fleet to a fleet owner, the one who is invested in the whole venture, obviously he's interested to save on fuel. But if you choose to talk to garage manager, for example, or a driver, they are not so much interested, because they might be a part of the crime plot, to steal fuel from the owner. So then choosing the right person to talk is also very crucial. For automotive fleets, the invested people would be obviously the fleet owner, the one who pays for the whole party, and the head of security for the automotive fleet also is very important person to talk to, and financial team, because optimization at the end of the day will lessen their work. Second, you have to know your product. You have to be, as we talked with Mr. Sanjay before, you have to know that every technical aspect of the technical product, because this is a technical product we talk about. You have to be ready to answer any question related to as how does it look like, how does it work, how often does it send data to the platform, how much it will cost, to install the system. So all these things, you should come prepared. You should understand, and then you should you should train yourself, you train your employees how to do that. Another thing, you have to if we talk about our particular type of business, obviously showing the ROI, the return of investment part is very important, because this is all about it actually. Let me just share my screen one more time. Yeah, and I have some digits for you guys. These are the digits from 2021, and we see, I mean, these numbers, they speak for themselves. This is the percentage of the positive ROI achievement for different type of the transportation, construction, service companies. Yeah, so you can see, with the provision of a properly set monitoring system, you can provide these digits to to your customer, to the end user, and then this is obviously what they should be interested in, because when we talk about the price, that's all comparative. Some people might say, well, the equipment is expensive, but then the diesel is more expensive. So then if you are able to save some amount of diesel through some period of time, most definitely your customer will save. Typical objections and how to overcome them. We, depending on the different regions, if you remember the conversation with Mr. Sanjay earlier, he shared some insights what type of the objections might be there. In India, yes, people wouldn't know about existing of such type of system. People wouldn't know about about the price, that it could be reasonably priced. From some other regions, I can tell you that the objections for some countries were that they are leasing the equipment and they cannot make any holes in the tank. Yes, they cannot drill the tank. The proper answer would be, it's not the tank is not necessarily a structural part of the vehicle. It's actually an external piece of not even equipment really. It's a tank. It's a vessel. I used to drive a truck for some time, and I personally bent a few fuel tanks because I was not properly maneuvering. So then they went to change, and it's not a structural part of the vehicle. It's just a piece of metal, really. In most cases, when people buy trucks that have to be long hauling, travel long distances, they would be installing or changing the tanks to the bigger ones. So if you would change the tank, why not just install the monitoring system to it? And then, installing the fuel level sensor and the GPS tracker, it's actually a redundant system. It's not interfering with the vehicle's any vital parts. It's not interfering with the steering. It's not interfering with the braking, with airbags, with safety, with none of that. It's just a sensor installed in the fuel tank. Obviously, the sensors would have the special explosion-proof certification, so for them to be used safely for the gasoline, for diesel. And the GPS trackers, they've been certified by any authority, because you cannot just import GPS tracker in the country without a proper certification. So those would be your key points, understanding your equipment, because if you know your equipment from A to Z, you would be able to answer any question. Any objection would be overcome, would be easily overcome. And then you have to know your customer. What does the customer need? So given those two, obviously will bring you some business. And then there's also, we can follow the example of Mr. Sanjay from Calcom. You know, given a test, give your customer a test, the proof of concept. So basically, if they have a fleet of 100 or 200 or 50 vehicles, doesn't matter. You can afford to install 1 or 2 sets of equipment and get them to see the results, because the results not going to be apparent within a week or 2. You know, at least 1 month, 2 weeks, 1 month, you know, maybe more in certain cases, for them to see an actual result, an actual savings. And then if you choose the proper equipment, if you install it properly, the customer will see results. The sale will go by itself. You know, the equipment will make the sale. And to know the equipment, you obviously have to learn. And then I would like to transfer a word to my friend here, Arslan Rahmatulin. So he can tell you about 101 of the fuel level sensors and 101 of the fuel monitoring. So Arslan, please.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, fellow panelists. Let me share my screen first, then we can proceed with my presentation, the key points that I'm going to be covering today. And those are going to be some common mistakes that all integrators make and how to avoid them. Also, I will share some tips that could be called before the installation, because you need to go to any installation well prepared in order not to run into some issues that could have been easily avoided otherwise. How to properly install the capacitive type fuel level sensors. I will emphasize why the preparation in advance is crucial, and also share some knowledge on how to pick the GPS trackers and monitoring platforms that complement, that are usually the foundation of any monitoring system, that are complemented by our sensors. On to the next slide, and just a second. So these are some common mistakes that are actually fairly easy to avoid. The first one being lack of preparation, because if you don't test the equipment that you are going to be installing in your office, on your table, before going to the customer, you could run into some issues, some complications during the installation. And if you're not prepared, we will always be there. The tech support of our company will be there to give you a hand, to help you out. But in any case, if your end customer is present there and they see that you are not dealing with everything with ease, that could leave a fairly bad impression in their mind. The second common issue is a poor calibration of a fuel level sensor. If you don't know how it's done, you could make some mistakes there, and that could lead to the sensor not working properly. But again, since our sensors are very easy to configure via our mobile app, it's not that difficult to understand how the procedure actually works and how to do that properly. For example, on your screen right now, you have 2 screenshots. You can see 2 screenshots from the same mobile app, from our mobile app. On your left, the sensor is properly calibrated because its CNC, its current raw level reading, is fluctuating between the empty and full. I mean, when the tubes are empty, it's roughly equal to the value of empty. When the tubes are full, it's roughly equal to the value of full. So that means that the sensor is properly calibrated. On your right, you can see this screenshot taken when the sensor was connected, and that sensor had been cut but had not been properly calibrated. That's why the current level value is lower than the empty value. That means that that sensor was cut, it was not properly calibrated. So the only thing that had to be done there was to calibrate the sensor. As you can see, comparing 2-3 numbers in our app is fairly easy. So That's a common mistake, but if you know how everything works, easy to avoid. On to the next slide. Two more common mistakes. Those are poorly made tank calibration table that is used not by the sensor, but by the platform in order to convert the level readings received from the sensor into liters or gallons or whatever. Well, those two tables show you some common situations when the sensor is calibrated. For example, this table shows that's the case. When the sensor is calibrated with fuel and you have to cover the drainage holes, then put it upside down, fill it with fuel, and set the full value. After that, sometimes even the most experienced integrators forget to uncover the drainage holes, put the sensor inside the tank, and the air trapped inside the tubes prevents the fuel from going up the tubes. And that's why the level reading remains at 1, although it should be increasing. For example, when you add 10 liters, the level should rise to, for example, 148 or 186, depending on your tank, of course, the shape of your tank. And also, there is a possibility of dirt or water or metal shavings, metal dust being present inside the tank. And in this case, when you are adding some fuel to the tank, at some point the level could just jump up to the maximum value or even to the value of 7,000. That means that there is a short circuit inside the tubes and you need to remove it. Once again, if you know what that means, you can easily overcome that predicament. The fourth common mistake is that some integrators, especially those who are new to all this business, sometimes don't have that complete and full understanding of how the data flows in a monitoring system. That the data is transmitted from the sensor to the GPS tracker and then from the latter to the server. So if you don't know that and you don't know how to configure your GPS tracker, you could get the following. Here's an example of a GPS tracker's configurator, Teltonica in particular. That's just an example. There are some other trackers out there, of course. That's totally on you, what you pick. It's up to you. But in this case, you can see that in the tab I/O, inputs, outputs, the data from the sensor was coming properly, it was properly displayed, but that data was not getting to the server, to the platform. Well, sometimes you just need to enable the transmission of some parameters because usually the GPS trackers allow you to configure what data is transmitted to the platform, because on that depends how much money you will be spending on the internet providers services, mobile operators services. So it's totally configurable, but if you don't know that, well, then you could run into some minor setbacks. For example, if you're installing our BLE sensors, our Bluetooth sensors, and connecting them with Teltonica, then the only thing that you need to do after configuring the connection is to go to this tab, System, and then in the Data Protocol session, activate Codec 8 Extended. And then the data will start flowing from the sensor to the GPS tracker, and then from the GPS tracker to the platform. Now some not obvious but very useful tips before the installation. You need to prepare yourself. First of all, test everything in your office on the table. Make sure that the sensor is properly working, that the data from it is properly getting to the GPS tracker and then to the server. The second rule is to take 2 sensors or two GPS trackers, 2 converters, 2 SIM cards, 2 batches of fuel, just in case you need to check if there is some issue in one of the particular devices. For example, there is always a possibility of human error occurring. There's always a possibility that when cutting the sensor, you damage it. But in this case, you are always prepared. You have another one to install and not to stop or reschedule the installation. Also, if you suspect that some sensor is behaving not in the right way, then you could just take another one and test it in the same tank. If both of them are not working properly in that tank, probably the issue is with the tank, with some dirt inside the tank, for example. And of course, you need to have enough fuel. The tank of the vehicle must be full because you need to do the tank calibration, and that means filling the tank portion by portion until it's completely filled. But if the vehicle moves from the gasoline station to the installation spot, then it will consume some fuel on that trip. So it's better to come prepared with 1 or 2 jerry cans full of fuel to compensate for that consumption. It's not obvious, but it's a very useful thing to do. Now, I won't be covering extensively how the procedure of installing the capacitive type fuel level sensors is done, because that would take us probably another 30-40 minutes, and I don't think that we can afford that today. But in general, there are several stages of that procedure. The first one being that you prepare the tank, you select the installation spot, you cut a hole, you drill a hole for the sensor to be installed in. Then you measure the height of the tank, measure the length of the tubes of the sensor, and either cut them or extend them. And the minimum length of the sensor of the tubes themselves could be 15 centimeters. And also there will also be a need for 1.5 centimeters for the centrator and for some free space between the tubes and the bottom of the tank. And the maximum length of the tubes can reach up to 7 meters. So you can install our sensors in huge tanks or systems. After you cut the sensor or extend its tubes, you need to calibrate it for its new length, so to speak, so that it didn't have any blind spots, any dead zones. After that, you install the sensor in the tank, do the tank calibration by filling the tank portion by portion and creating the table, the tank calibration table. After that, it's always recommended to do the test drain and fill up. It means that you take about 50-20% of the fuel from the tank, wait for 10-15 minutes, and then put that fuel back into the tank. And all that time, the sensor has to be reporting to the GPS tracker and the GPS tracker to the server. Then you go to the server and check if those manipulations with fuel are properly displayed there. Sorry, seems like like that. If those manipulations are properly displayed, then that means that the sensor is working properly and your tank calibration table has been done properly as well. After that, you set the filtration to avoid any false alarms during the movement of the vehicle when the fuel is sloshing inside the tank. And in that point, I'd like to cover a little bit in more detail. You need to keep some records after each installation, because those could come up. Those could come in very handy later on. But what records those should be? Well, first of all, it's not a bad idea to take a screenshot of the calibration menu of your sensor. This is how that menu looks in our configurator for computers. And this is a screenshot from our mobile app. Then in your report on the installation, you need to include the date on which the sensor was installed on the vehicle, its model, the operating mode, or the mode in which it was connected to the GPS tracker, the serial number of the sensor, the calibration values of empty and full, firmware version, vehicle tank's capacity, tank's height, sensor's length, filtration level, and whether the sensor passed or not the test drain field. Well, usually it passes unless there is some issue, and then you just need to install another sensor. But that's a good thing to keep in your records anyway. As I've said before, the preparation is crucial, because when you're already there installing the sensor, it is difficult to suspend that procedure and reschedule an installation, because that will hardly make your customer happy about that. So you are definitely bearing some reputation risks. That's why you need to prepare in advance, because if you're prepared, then you'll be able to deal with anything. And in case there is something overcomplicated, then once again, we will be online. You can reach us via Skype, Telegram, Viber, WhatsApp, or chat on our website. So we will be there to help you out. But in any case, knowledge costs less than ignorance. Yes, you will need to learn how the sensors work, how to properly install them, configure them. But I think that it's less costly to invest that time into that effort and make that effort, then make some mistakes during the installation, and then ask the end customer for the access to the vehicle to readjust something. It's always looked upon as something, well, hardly pleasing for the end customer. A couple of tips on how to, what to look at when you're choosing a GPS tracker. And on the next slide, we will discuss also the monitoring platforms. First of all, the website and all the manuals, all video guides, all documents of the manufacturer should be user-friendly enough. All the characteristics and specs should be listed and explained in a clear fashion. Also, the software tool or configurator of the manufacturer should be user-friendly and easy to understand. And if you're installing our sensors, it's always better if you make sure that the tracker has either the RS485 port, which makes it compatible with all the models of the wired sensors we manufacture, or I wrote USB, but I actually meant Bluetooth. Also, the presence of the Bluetooth communication interface is vital, because if you're installing the BLE sensors, then you connect our sensor via Bluetooth to that tracker. Well, and of course, it's always a good idea to search for the feedback from the customers that are already using certain brands or certain models of GPS trackers, and see what they say in some dedicated forums or communities in WhatsApp, Telegram. I know that there are quite a few of them out there. When you are choosing a platform, of course, you need to take a look at what you need, and then compare what your needs with the list of functionalities that the platform offers. The tables and charts should be configurable to your taste, because you could be installing not only fuel level sensors, but some other sensors too. For example, the tilt angle sensors, like those that we manufacture. And of course, it's always better if you can access the raw messages transmitted by the GPS tracker on the platform, because the raw data sometimes is more useful than any calculations that are made by the platform. It just makes the diagnostics far easier. Well, I understand that it's quite a lot to take in one session, and we could actually we would probably need more than 5 or even 6 or even 7 webinars to cover every aspect of the installation and using our fuel level sensors. But since we cannot afford that, and understanding that some of our customers could be new to all this business, or some of them have never installed our sensors, bearing that in mind, we have created our Escort Monitoring Academy, which is an educational platform that helps our customers learn everything there is about our sensors, how to install them, how to configure them, how to connect them with GPS trackers, and how to configure the reports on a monitoring platform. The Well, currently there are 14 lessons available on the platform, and those lessons consist of 19 videos with more than 70 exercises to follow those lessons. So you can watch the information that we relay in the lessons, and then take some quizzes, some exercises in order to reinforce your knowledge. And after that, you will also be able to install your first fuel level sensor without even having one. I mean, like a virtual sensor. That's one of the exercises available on the platform. After finishing the course, you will also get a certificate from us that will show your expertise and professionalism. So you will be a certified integrator. So that should increase should increase your improve the impression that you leave in your customer. And of course, the platform is still in the makings, but it will be available quite soon. And the early birds will get free access to it. And I think that Eleonora has, she will cover that in a few minutes. But my presentation is finished. Thank you for your attention. And I hope that all this information has been useful to you.
Thank you very much, Arslan. Now, with our webinar coming to an end, I do hope that you found it very useful. Well, I did. Where do I sign up, right? I would ask you to kindly vote on how you feel on the poll in front of you. We'd really appreciate your feedback in order, there's always a room, obviously, for improvement. So we'd like to get better with every webinar and with every interaction that we get. I can imagine you probably have some questions. Certainly, we will get to them in a few minutes. As much as we can, we will answer. This webinar was just a beginning to a whole new life that you can start today. So, with the greatest pride, I'd like to announce an opening of Escort Monitoring Online Academy. And first 15 people right now who will text me their company name and their email will get the unique opportunity to get this certified course for free. Okay, so please take this opportunity. It's one of a kind. There's not going to be any more. And now I guess let's get to your questions. Okay, let me see. Don't be shy, okay? We're here right now to answer to the questions. I see that there are some questions that already been answered, but maybe, I don't know, Mr. Sanjay, would you like to comment on the average pricing of the fee, maybe, of the $3 and because we took here as $5.
Means average pricing for installation or?
Well, the subscription fee, because I see that here, Mr. Atif Kazi, he was saying that $5 that we took as an example was quite high, and he's saying that average pricing is $3. What is it?
No,
can you share?
No, it's all totally depend. Like we are using while on platform, so definitely it is $5. Depending on the platform you use, it's between 3 to 5. Somebody charging 6 and 7 also in India. So it's entirely depend upon how you project it to your customer or how good your platform is.
Okay.
So it depends. It totally depends.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjay. I see also the other question was answered, but maybe Mr. Arslan would like to comment on it from also Mr. Atif Kazi. The BLE FLS has trouble communicating with Teltonika FMB 920 Bluetooth. kindly look into it to resolve the same.
See, this is something which Teltonica has to do because there is some firmware issue in their devices. So we are communicating with them, we are talking with them, but they still, I know there is some issues. Some devices are working very fine, some devices they have an issue. But I think over the period of time, that Teltonica will look into it, and we are just talking to them. So hopefully it gets us, because that is not in our hand. That's entirely depend upon the Teltonica. But yes, as a system integrator or something, if you need, we can recommend other devices also, which are very good with TDB.
Sure, sure. I also could add that, well, I think that initially Teltonica thought of the Bluetooth module in their trackers as a means to configure the tracker rather than as an interface for data collection from BLE sensors, because BLE sensors, well, we launched our TD-BLE in 2018 only. So I think that once Teltonica sees that there is potential that the BLE sensors are going to overcome the wired FLS, which is probably what's going to happen eventually, they will just revise the components that you're using and maybe install the dedicated Bluetooth chips that are designed to collect the data from different sensors.
Thank you very much, Arsan and Mr. Sanjay. I see that Mr. Artif has commented also that pricing is a challenge here, which you're aware of. We are aware of it. Trust us. Mr. Sanjay, would you like to comment on
See,
this?
I will tell you, you have to, mindset of the people have changed. Like earlier, my purchase cost, my means the hardware cost plus my profit is my, plus my margin is my selling cost. Now the scenario is changed. It is the selling cost minus my purchase cost is my profit. Now the customer is ruling the market. See, customer has multiple options. If I'm talking about just Hyderabad city, we have 145 resellers who are selling GPS tracker. Just alone in Hyderabad city. If we are looking at India, it's a very huge. So any company who is looking for a fuel monitoring system or a GPS tracker, he has multiple options to choose. Day before yesterday, I went to a meeting, and a company has invited 7 companies for for quotations and for discussions. So this will happen. It's like how you pitch your product, how you raise the confidence in your product, what is the customer is believe, how your customer believe in your product. That's the only thing we can do right now, because people are I know that with why COVID-19 or something, the people are desperate to sell. They have overstock. Some people they have overstock or something. So they might some people are trying to desperate to sell it. To find a client is very difficult right now, but it entirely depend upon you. If we are you can, I don't say go for a higher price. You should be a reasonable. You can just at least talk to a customer. Like we have a dealer in Odisha. He went to a client and said that he will install a Bluetooth sensor for one vehicle. He will charge 36,000, and the customer come back to him and saying that he has a budget of 21,000 for each vehicle, which is actually a very good price. 21,000 is not a bad price at all. I'm ready to sell it, but because he has pitched so high earlier that he cannot come back to 21,000, so he loses the customer. So pitching the right price with the right solution is important. If you pitch high or very low, it's difficult. The customer will not believe into it. So pricing will entirely depend on how you are approaching a customer, because competition is there. If you are thinking that I am going to a customer without there is no competition at all, it's false. Customer will search in the market. Definitely.
I see. Yes, absolutely agree with you. Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjay, for this, the insights from, the real time and real life integrator already in India with such a great experience such as yours. Now, we have a question from Mr. Batula Manoranjan. I really do apologize if I mispronounce your names. Please forgive us, the European, the Russian folks. Your terms and conditions investment required. I think maybe team, would you like to comment on this? So, Mr. Sanjay.
Terms and I think team will answer.
Just let me unmute my microphone real quick. Terms, conditions. Since we are the manufacturer of the hardware, yes, our terms is at the end of the day is to sell this hardware. So and see this installed in the vehicle properly. So what we are looking for, we are looking for qualified integrators who would be able to install the hardware and provide the quality solution to the end user. So then nobody will be held at fault, you know, because we've met with plenty of situations when our sensors were installed not properly, so to say, and then the equipment brand was discredited in certain regions. So simple as that. What type of investment? Obviously, the education. You know, if you registered for a free course, it will be enough. You know, if you have certain, it's not a computer science, really. It's not a building a rocket. It's yes, it's fuel. You have to be very cautious. You have to be very understanding of the substance. You have to know, you know, electrical basics. And then you would be able to you know, to build the solution, to try this solution at home first. You know, if you have, it's as simple as buying the GPS tracker, buying the fuel level sensor, you know, getting a sample subscription from the software provider and trying, you know, like as we speak, actually, at my house I have fuel level sensor, I have temperature sensor wirelessly connected to the FMB 920 of Teltonika, and then I carry these sensors around. I put them in the different rooms. I take them outside. You know, I see how data is coming to Vialon software, and then that's because of this connectivity issue. And I've you know, I've decided to try what type of conditions have to be met for Teltonika 920 to communicate properly to the sensors. So yeah, this is your initial investment, is just education and the sample hardware, you know, so you would be able to bench test, and then you can see, and then you would know what kind of equipment you should come to the end user with, you know. And then what else? I guess if you would be able to convince the end user, and then you just talk to us, talk to Mr. Sanjay, and we can discuss the terms further if you're able to proceed with the order and with the installation. So then it's all could be solved right on point. Usually I'm not sure in what regions, you know, how it works, but in certain cases integrators use the customer's money to purchase equipment and to install it. So that's basically you selling your expertise, you selling your service, you know, and then equipment. I mean, the end user pays for equipment. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be his equipment anyway. So yeah, as far as I can say.
Would you like to add something, Mr. Sanjay?
Yeah, what Tim told is very true. Like 50% of the payment is upfront made by the clients itself. Like if you're selling 2 sensors or 3 sensors, generally in our case, we ask for 50 to 60% advance. So most of the time our hardware investment is already there with us. And we have another program what we are running right now. It's like some of the dealers we have in India, they don't have such a big infrastructure, or they don't have a money, or they don't have even a tax company registered with them. So what we support them, that we tell them that, okay, they can go on to the market, they sell on the Qualcomm name. We will send a quotation from here. And once the deal is done, once the equipment is installed, and once the client made us the payment, we pay them the difference amount, whatever the extra margin they have kept over the dealer price. We are selling at them dealer price, and whatever extra margin they kept on a dealer price. Suppose I give them a dealer at 12,000 rupees, and if they sold it at 19,000, so 8,000, whatever the extra money I'm getting from the customer, I am paying directly to their account. So this way we are helping them also. They don't need to register, open a very big setup. The only thing is that you have to go out on the field, get a customer, and get that installation done. That's all.
Yeah, it sounds like a very good opportunity to start and
Yeah,
with
it's a zero investment.
with a support. Yeah.
It's a zero
Thank you
investment.
very much, Mr. Sanjay. Yeah, actually, the next question is also for you. Who does the installation for you? Asks Murali Lingam. And do you have your own team that goes to the client places, or you have your own installation center where the trucks come in and you do the installation there?
No, we are going at a client place for doing the installation because construction companies, mining or any other company, they have their own place, they have their own service station for doing the service and installation. In some cases where we have a transporter, we have 1 or 2 vehicles. We talk with some local mechanic there, so we can just park the vehicle there and we arrange for the diesel from the fuel pump. So it depends, but 99% of the case we are going to the customer, or we are taking their vehicle to the mechanic shop or a diesel station to fill the diesel to go calibration. But we don't have a service station, like no, the customer will not send a vehicle to us to doing the calibration. That is not there.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjay. I see that people are already leaving their details. Thank you very much for your interest. It really warms our hearts, really, to see such big interest. Mr. Ati, if you would like to enroll in our Learning Academy, please also leave your details. We will definitely contact you after the webinar. And we will discuss the opportunities and how we can proceed. The certificate from Escort will benefit. Yes, it will. And we are all very excited to have you here on this webinar and to start working together. I don't know if you remember or not, but we will be opening an office in India maybe this year, yes. And if we have no more questions, let me check the chat. Okay, no. Well, I think it all went very well. I would really like to thank everybody for participating. Our speakers, would you like to add anything, the speakers? Any last goodbye? Okay.
I would like to add
Yes,
one thing
Mr.
here.
Sanjay.
Like anybody, if they have any doubts or they want to do installation in India, any part of India, they can approach us. We have our team or we have our dealer network which can help them for the installations. Initially, for 1 or 2 vehicles, we will not charge for them, so they get trained at the on the field site on particularly, and over the phone we are 24/7 available. So that's not an issue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjay. Okay, well, take an opportunity, and stay safe, be well, and thank you very much again. You have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your day.
Take care.